Friends, I'm glad we are here. We're not in person, but we are still connected in this way. And I'm so very grateful that technology allows us to gather like this. For life is different now. Life is fundamentally different. And what is threatened most is our need and deep desire to be together. As humans, we are social creatures. As spiritual beings, we need to connect with one another. As people of faith, our story is a communal one, about relationship and love expressed through and with each other. And so for this period of time, we find ourselves fundamentally challenged to fulfill what can be some of our most basic needs of connection, of closeness, of touch, of acceptance and community. And it is this threat to our identity, our very identity as social beings, that makes it so hard to be apart, to self-isolate, to distance ourselves from one another, to cancel our worship services, to stop meeting with friends, to close restaurants, to limit our interactions and time that we spend going down the street, to have family visits restricted. It makes it so hard to change our behaviours, because at our core is the need to be connected with one another. At our core, we need to be connected to the sacred, the one we name as God. Life is now different, and for the time being at least, we will have to rely on creative means and in creative ways, and for some of us, new ways to connect with one another and support each other, and be united in our love and care through the use of technology. Now, it's not lost on me the significance that the story we have focused on today from the Gospel of John is a story of healing. And with it, questions of faith and life emerge. But as is with human nature, blame also comes to the fore. A man blind from birth is healed by Jesus. And with that, the man is questioned. Who healed you? Were you even blind? Jesus is questioned. Who sinned that this man was born blind? That is, whose fault is it? Who is at fault that this suffering has even occurred? Who are you, Jesus, to have even healed this man? And how can you possibly done this on the Sabbath, the day of holy rest? This is not too dissimilar to the hysteria and panic we have experienced around us in these past days. As it is easy to want to blame that country, that government, or the government, that cruise ship, that school, that busload of people, that business, that manager, or that person. Whether this is related to the virus, the response to the pandemic, or our collective behaviour as people in supermarkets and online. Whose fault is it that all this suffering has occurred? Friends, in this moment, we would do well to pause, to stop. And to do this not from a place of fear, not as an act of fear, but as an act of generous love. We stop and acknowledge the fear associated with losing some of our most fundamental needs as humans. The need of connection, of closeness, of togetherness, of touch, of autonomy, of acceptance. And when we acknowledge this, we then reorientate these as an act of love and compassion to one another and ourselves. We reorientate this as love expressed to our families, our neighbours, and our community at large. We acknowledge our fears and anxieties and pray that this may be transformed into love and kindness. We pray that our blindness may be healed. John's Jesus says that this man was born blind so that God's work might be revealed in him. Now, friends, we kid ourselves if we believe blindness has anything to do with the providential healing of this man, for God to prove a point to humanity through Jesus. Rather, listen again. This man was born so that God's work might be revealed in him. The very essence of what is before us today is our willingness again to allow the work of God to be revealed in us, to allow love and grace to transform us. Blind, be it physically or spiritually, full of sight, physically or spiritually, as humanity, we are born with the potential to show great love and compassion so that the sacred and the divine may be revealed in us. This is the miracle we pray for. This is the healing and wholeness we seek. We are reminded at this time that the suffering that exists in the world, the danger on our lives, the times that we feel most threatened are experiences that humanity has encountered for all human time. And our response as people of faith must not be to blame, but to see the miracle and movement of God in our midst. And how do we see that? Well, it occurs through expressions of acceptance and inclusion and grace and compassion. How do we bring about the healing and wholeness of Jesus that was afforded to this man? Well, it's about not being spiritually blind. It's about having generous and open hearts. It's about doing the things that are most loving and kind and responsible, which in this case means closing our churches. It's about checking in on your neighbour. It's about leaving some supplies on the shelf for someone else. Or perhaps popping something down at someone's door. It's about committing to send that text or that email, or to have a FaceTime coffee. It's about pausing for a moment and taking the dog for a walk, cuddling your child, listening to the birds in the trees, or smiling at a stranger. It's about taking seriously the gospel imperatives to care for one another, but doing that in a way that is safe and upholds the dignity of all people. Friends, this is a Sabbath reality of healing. Sabbath is about tending to the soul, finding a balance amongst the busyness and chaos of always doing, and pausing in this moment to find our being. That is, to find the point where all that is human and all that is sacred can and will align. For here we find our healing and our wholeness. And I've been so moved in this past week to see the response of people right around the world and in our neighbourhoods, as groups like the Kindness Pandemic and Love Your Neighbour have sprung up all over Facebook, offering practical help for one another. the human spirit, grace and love is alive and well. The gift we have from the scriptures today is the certainty and promises of God. That God is always with us. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Friends, throughout this time, throughout time that is, people have lent on this passage and on the spirituality of Psalm 23 to be reminded of the steadfast love of God. And we know in times of deep pain and suffering and uncertainty, God is present, and God's peace, the peace of divine love, can and will transform even our most darkest moments. The spirituality and wisdom of this text is simple. Divine love is present to us. Divine peace is present with us, wherever, whenever. Be that on distant shores, in home isolation, in hospital clinics as patient, doctor or nurse, in workplaces and schools, in this moment right now. The anxieties we feel are real, and we can find compassion for ourselves and for our fears and anxieties as we open up a little more space and pause and let the love and grace of the divine sweep over us and grant us peace. May you lie down in green pastures, and may you be led to the beautiful, soothing, flowing waters. May your soul be restored. Let me conclude by reading to you a poem by Lynn Ungar, which speaks of the deep peace that is afforded to us and the opportunity we have to embrace and embody the healing rhythm of the Sabbath in this moment. It's called Pandemic by Ruth Ungar. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling, give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Centre down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny that now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out with your hands. Reach out with your heart. Reach out with your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Friends, may the sacred that is beyond you rest with the sacred that is within you. And in this meeting, may the peace of God transform your fears and forever give you peace.